King Saul has been killed in battle by the Philistines, and David had no part of it. David had left Israelite territory and was in Philistine territory. But the Philistines would not permit David to fight with them and had sent him home, down south. And when he got home, he'd found that the Amalekites had attacked Ziklag. So he went on his own mission to recover the things that the Amalekites had taken. And the Lord had given him victory. And he recovered his wives and the wives and children of the men who were with him. Now it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David had returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had stayed 2 days in Ziklag. On the 3rd day, behold, it happened that a man came from Saul's camp, with his clothes torn, and dust on his head. So it was, when he came to David, that he fell on the ground and prostrated himself. And David said to him, Where have you come from? And so he said to him, I have escaped from the camp of Israel. Then David said to him, How did the matter go? Please tell me. And he answered, The people have fled from the battle. Many of the people are fallen and dead, and Saul and Jonathan his son are dead also. So David said to the young man who told him, How do you know that Saul and Jonathan his son are dead? Then the young man who told him said, As I happened by chance to be on Mount Gilboa, there was Saul, leaning on his spear. And indeed the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. Now when he looked behind him, he saw me, and called to me, and I answered, Here I am. And he said to him, Who are you? And so I answered, I am an Amalekite. And he said to me again, Please stand over me and kill me, for anguish has come upon me. But my life still remains in me. So I stood over him and killed him, because I was sure that he could not live after he had fallen. And I took the crown that was on his head, and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them here to my Lord. Therefore David took hold of his own clothes and tore them, and so did all the men who were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and for Jonathan his son, for the people of the Lord and for the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. Then David said to the young man who told him, Where are you from? And he answered, I am the son of an alien, an Amalekite. So David said to him, How was it that you were not afraid to put forth your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? Then David called one of the young men and said, Go near and execute him. And he struck him so that he died. So David said to him, Your blood is on your own head, for your own mouth has testified against you, saying, I have killed the Lord's anointed. Then David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. And he told them to teach the children of Judah the song of the bow. Indeed, it is written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Israel is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for the shield of the mighty is cast away there. The shield of Saul, not anointed with oil, from the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty. The bow of Jonathan did not turn back. The sword of Saul did not return empty. Saul and Jonathan were beloved and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with luxury, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan was slain on your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, surpassing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war perished. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together these verses from 2 Samuel chapter 1. Originally, the two books of Samuel were one book, but I guess they were too long and it was divided into two scrolls. The first one dealing with the life of Samuel and of Saul. The second one dealing with events in the life of David. And when we go to 1 Kings, we'll turn to the life of Solomon, followed by the subsequent kings who reigned. There's always a trap of trying to second guess what somebody else was thinking. The Amalekites were longtime enemies of Israel, and here was an Amalekite who seems to have joined up with Israel, fighting with the Israelite army. He was a young man, no doubt an adventurer. David has just returned from killing the Amalekites because this was God's judgment on them for resisting Israel. But of course there are two ways of resisting. One is to come out with a sword, the other one is to infiltrate and work from the inside. Everyone knew that Saul was against David, and so they presumed that David would be against Saul. But there's absolutely no evidence of this. David had great love and respect for Saul, because Saul was the Lord's anointed. David respected the office that Saul held. You cannot destroy the man, assassinate even if he is an evil tyrant, a dictator, or whatever kind of man he is. David knew it was not right to take this man's life, because God had appointed him to that position. And in many places the scriptures affirm that God has established governments and he puts men in place. He puts men in place that they might do good, but if they do evil, it is his responsibility to deal with them, and he will in his time. Well, this Amalekite seems to have come across Saul after he had died. He took his crown from his head, and the bracelet was on his arm, and he brought those to David. Now that I've got these things, how can I ingratiate myself to the next king? I will go and say that I executed his enemy Saul, thinking that he would become a great person in David's kingdom, having killed David's enemy. But of course, he has misread David completely, because he's thinking as an Amalekite, not thinking as a godly person. His story is in conflict with what we read in the previous chapter, that Saul killed himself. He fell on his sword, and his armor-bearer witnessed it, and fell on his sword and died with him. This Amalekite claimed to have killed Saul himself, not realizing that in so doing he was writing his death warrant. No man has the right to take the life of another in such a manner, no matter how much the first is suffering or fears suffering. The first thing that David did when he hears about this is mourn, and those who are with him mourn also. Being a wise man, David interrogates the young man a little bit more, to know that this man is an Amalekite, and that he had no hesitation killing the king of Israel. He is guilty of murder. And then we have this wonderful song, How the Mighty Have Fallen on the Mountains of Gilboa. Don't rejoice over the death of Saul. He is a mighty man of God. David honours him, and Saul in the New Testament also honours him. But we also have a special honour given to Jonathan. For David declares, I'm distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, surpassing the love of women. The relationship that Jonathan and David had was a very deep love relationship, a commitment to one another, confirmed with a covenant. But of course, this is not a marriage, and this was not sexual. We all need to love one another, and to have for men that we love, and for women that you love. This is a commitment to a person, and that is what the scriptures celebrate. Faithfulness to one another, even as Jesus loved us and gave himself for us.